For years, Jenna Hager has been more than just a familiar face on our screens. To millions of viewers, she has felt like a trusted friend, someone who brings warmth, humor, and sincerity into our homes each morning. From her beginnings as the daughter of a U.S. president to her rise as one of America's most beloved television personalities, Jenna has lived much of her life in the public eye, always with grace, relatability, and compassion. But even the brightest smiles can sometimes hide the deepest struggles. Recently, Jenna Hager revealed something that shook not only her fans, but the entire nation. A deeply personal and emotional confession that left millions holding their breath. It wasn't the poised and cheerful Jenna we were used to seeing. It was a woman, raw and vulnerable, standing in front of the world with tears in her eyes, revealing a devastating diagnosis that had turned her life upside down. The moment she spoke, the world seemed to pause. Her voice trembled, her eyes glistened with emotion, and her honesty cut through the noise of television like a knife through glass. For a few minutes, there were no scripts, no polished smiles, just truth. She described a frightening diagnosis that tested the very foundation of her life. It was the kind of news that forces anyone, no matter how strong, to stop and question everything. The shock, the fear, the disbelief, you could see it in her face. You could feel it in her voice. And behind the camera, her co-host and close friend Hoda Kotb looked equally shaken, her eyes welling with tears as she reached out to comfort her. For viewers around the world, this wasn't just another emotional television moment. It was a glimpse into what it means to be human. In that moment, Jenna wasn't a celebrity or a television star. She was a mother, a wife, a daughter, just like so many others facing a terrifying unknown. The revelation hit home for millions who have experienced the same fear, the fear of illness, of losing control, of not knowing what tomorrow might bring. But what made this confession even more powerful was what followed. Jenna didn't just share her pain, she shared her strength. Her story became not just one of heartbreak, but of resilience. She spoke about her family, her husband Henry, her 3 beautiful children, and her parents, former President George W. Bush and former First Lady Laura Bush, who stood by her side through every uncertain moment. She described the love that held her up when her spirit felt weak, and the faith that guided her through the darkness. Through tears, Jenna thanked her family for their unwavering support and her Today Show family, especially Hoda Kotb, for their constant presence, encouragement, and compassion. It was clear that the bond between these two women goes far beyond the television set. What the viewers witnessed was a profound display of sisterhood and solidarity, 2 women showing the world that vulnerability is not a weakness, but a testament to strength. As the world watched, social media erupted with messages of love and support. Fans from across the globe shared their own experiences, their prayers, and their admiration. Many said they saw themselves in Jenna's words, the same fear, the same pain, the same hope. In that shared vulnerability, a powerful sense of unity was born. People who had been silent about their own battles, whether with health, grief, or anxiety, began to open up. Jenna's emotional confession had done something remarkable. It gave others permission to be human, to be real, to be imperfect. And yet, amid the outpouring of emotion, some began to wonder what exactly had Jenna been diagnosed with. The details were vague, and no specific illness had been publicly named. There were no confirmed medical statements or clear treatment plans. Instead, what she had offered was something more symbolic, an emotional truth about fear, loss, and the fragility of life. This ambiguity sparked conversations everywhere. Some speculated that perhaps her diagnosis was less about illness and more about a deeper personal revelation, a metaphorical diagnosis of the heart and soul. Others wondered if Jenna had used her platform not only to share her own vulnerability, but to draw attention to broader issues, the importance of self-care, mental health, and open dialogue about emotional well-being. Whatever the exact truth was, one thing became undeniable. Her words carried power, her tears carried meaning, and her courage carried hope. Jenna's confession reminded the world that even those who seem to have it all face private battles. Behind every confident smile is a story of struggle. Behind every success, a story of sacrifice. And behind every strong woman, there are moments of doubt, fear, and exhaustion that rarely make it to the screen. Her decision to share such a deeply personal story wasn't just an act of openness, it was an act of bravery. Because to admit you're hurting, especially in front of millions, takes a kind of courage that can't be faked. It's the courage that says, I'm human too. Her honesty also brought something else to light: the profound importance of community and connection. Jenna spoke of how her faith and family carried her through her darkest nights. She said she found healing not only in medicine, but in love, the kind that holds you when you fall apart, listens when words fail, and believes in you when you can't believe in yourself. And perhaps that is what resonated most deeply with her audience, because we all need that reminder that none of us are meant to walk through pain alone, that asking for help doesn't make you weak, that leaning on others doesn't mean you've lost your strength. It means you're smart enough to share the weight. Through her confession, Jenna transformed from a TV host into a symbol of resilience. Her story became a living message that vulnerability is a bridge, not a wall, that showing your wounds allows others to heal too. Even in the midst of uncertainty, she found purpose. She began using her platform to speak about hope, gratitude, and the importance of cherishing every single day. Her journey inspired conversations not just about illness, but about perspective. The reminder that our time, our health, our loved ones are gifts not to be taken for granted. Viewers began to see her not only as the smiling co-host of the Today Show, but as a voice of authenticity in a world that often values perfection over truth. Her bravery opened a door for millions who are afraid to speak, and through her, many found the courage to face their own fears. And then, as the dust began to settle, something even more remarkable emerged. The very diagnosis that once seemed like a death sentence became a turning point, a catalyst for hope. Whether through innovative medical treatment, personal transformation, or sheer faith, Jenna's story evolved from despair into resilience, from vulnerability into empowerment. She became living proof that adversity does not define us. It refines us. Her journey showed that even in the darkest storm, there is always a glimmer of light. Through her pain, she taught the world that healing isn't always about cures or doctors. It's about courage. It's about facing what scares us most and still choosing to move forward with grace and gratitude. Today, Jenna Bush Hager stands as more than a journalist or a morning show host. She stands as a reminder that strength comes not from never falling, but from rising again and again. She reminds us that even in our weakest moments, we have the power to inspire others, to turn our suffering into something meaningful, something beautiful. Her legacy is one of openness and compassion. Through her story, she has shown millions that it's okay to cry, to stumble, to doubt, and that in those very moments, we often discover who we truly are. So as we think about Jenna's journey, perhaps the lesson is this: we all face moments that threaten to break us, but those moments can also build us. Pain can shape purpose. Tears can water growth. And vulnerability, when shared, can heal not just one heart, but many. Jenna Bush Hager has reminded the world that the greatest gift we can offer one another is honesty. Her tears were not a sign of weakness. They were a symbol of courage. Her confession was not a cry for pity, it was a call for connection. And in that moment, as millions watched and wept alongside her, something beautiful happened. Humanity connected again, through shared pain, shared love, and shared hope. If there's one thing to take from Jenna's story, it's this: never underestimate the power of your own truth. You never know who might need to hear it. You never know who you might save simply by being honest about your journey. So let's hold on to that message. Let's remember that every scar tells a story, and every story has the power to heal. Because just like Jenna Bush Hager, we all have the strength to rise, to shine, and to inspire, even in our most fragile moments.